Hey guys, Kevin Melton here, and today I wanted to focus on building a pad, a certain type of pad that I would call a mood or atmosphere pad with a specific purpose. I'm sure with more videos to come, I'll do more stuff of like how to use Omnisphere, how to do this or that with Omnisphere, but today I really just wanted to focus on the unique textures in Omnisphere that you can create something on your own. We've got a lot of great sound designers out today that are just doing a lot of great work. And you might think to yourself, like, how can I sound different? How can I be unique when there's so much out there? And again, the content is great, but I really like the fact that with Omnisphere, you can kind of stand out. Whatever you think, whatever you dream, you can do. So today my focus is going to be on that side. Let's build a pad. Let how I think when I'm looking for textures and things that are you would take two pieces and put them together and normally think this doesn't go. But we can make it go, and it really will come up with a unique sound and something you really could use. So let's get started. Like I said, I'm using Omnisphere as my synth engine. And so right off the bat, when I start with a pad, I go to the multi, take the first four channels, first four layers, if you will, and put them to channel one, just so that they're all in the same signal flow wise, and then I get to work. And so I will say this too before we get too far. With Omnisphere gain structure, it can tend to be a little hot. And so I back this down because by the time you add multiple sound sources in, you can start adding distortion to your mix, and that's never a good thing. Unless you want it to distort, then it's a good thing. So I back this down so that way I'm not overdriving anything. So the first patch is I'm using just this basic pad in Omnisphere called Nice Bedding, and it is a really great pad for what you're going to be using it for. Again, we're thinking mood, we're thinking atmosphere, we're thinking flow time, maybe behind an oversight passer when he's speaking, maybe acoustic and pads in a down moment where there's really just supposed to be space. I'm going to start with a pad like this because I'm going to want a foundation, right? So really didn't change too much of this pad other than to mess with attack, decay, sustain, release. Get that where I wanted it. Can mess with the start points because of the nature of this pad. I mean, if you want it to start a little quicker, you can mess with that. Really not much doing there. Where I did make some changes, went to the effects. Chorus echo was here. I swapped that out for analog chorus. Mess with the parameters, so I was happy. I didn't want an echo or delay on the pad. It kind of muddied it up to me. These other ones have nothing on them. While we're talking about effects, I will tell you this, that while you can do a lot of effects within Omnisphere, and their effects racks are amazing, what I'll tell you is that the more effects you add, the more CPU you're going to use. So if you have the common full, A and B full, and then in the multis, you can actually keep adding to all these aux sends more effects. Man, you better be careful because chances are your CPU is going to go ballistic and be shouting at you to calm down. So, plus I'll finish the sound design actually with plugins on the channel strip itself to help finish it off. So on this pad right here, let's solo this out, and you can hear what it sounds like by itself now. Nice pad. I mean, that's a great sounding pad. For meat and potatoes, boom, good to go, right? Okay, so that's layer one. Nice pad, made it the parameters the way I want it. So again, the foundation or the focus on this video is to go in and find textures. Go digging in the library of this great synth plugin and find what's there. So I did find this lap steel guitar that I really like. It's just one oscillator. And so I just messed with, again, attack, release, sustain, all that stuff to get what I wanted. On effects, I put on the common proverb and turned the verb all the way up because that kind of took the sound itself and elongated it and maybe smoothed it out to make it what I wanted. But This right here is what was on it from the beginning. So I haven't even touched this. This is all great. It's all part of the sound as far as I'm concerned. So the only thing I wanted to do in common was add reverb so that I could kind of smooth that sound out. So let's listen to this patch soloed out. I mean, I like this, and with the reverb on, it just gives it a nice ambience, really a nice atmosphere and mood. So that's the second one, and that's, going back into the sound libraries and looking through stuff and going through textures and all that stuff. This is just a stock sample that's within Omnisphere, which is great. And then on the third one here, Finding Peace at the End, this actually is it's part of a Bob Moog tribute pack that Omnisphere sells. So this particular patch is part of that, which I purchased years ago when I first bought Omnisphere, probably 5 years ago. But it uses samples that are within Omnisphere, so you could take this patch and you could recreate it. But I will say this: the Bob Moog tribute pack is really, it's a great pack because they donate the money from this. So Omnisphere doesn't even keep the money; they donate it, and so it's great. So let's solo this one out. Again, looking for textures. This one, you actually go to Playable Textures to find this patch. Okay, so this one, if you're looking for where I got this from, I went to Playable Textures, and that's where I found this one. And that's where I'm saying you might think playable textures and pads really don't go together, but let's listen to it soloed out. And again, think what we said at the beginning, particles, right? I'm looking for texture, particles, ambience, atmosphere, mood. Those are the things I'm looking for to build this pad. So again, let's go to the actual layer here. And really, it's two oscillators here. So those, I haven't changed anything on that. This is all the same. This is pretty much all the same. The only thing I did was go in and add reverb and kind of elongate those particle movements. Okay, so this just has the delay was already on it, and so I'm just using this to kind of elongate or smooth out maybe the rough edges of these particles. If you could see the particles and they're crystally and you think sharp jagged edges representing high frequencies, this kind of smooths some of that out and really takes that what would normally be maybe you could think of a distracting type texture that would be loud and sharp and just kind of mellows it out and gives it some great ambience there. So that's all I'm using for these three layers, okay, in this multi. So let's put them all together here. This is what it sounds like when you play them together. So, okay, I'm liking where this pad is going. I like the textures. If you could picture a room, a sanctuary of any size, but 500 to 1,000 people, whatever, bigger, you could feel that this pad could kind of fill the space. Okay, and again, you're providing atmosphere, you're providing texture, particles. That really could feel like it could fill the space up really nice. Now, let's move on to the channel strip here. So in my channel strip, I have already made settings for my EQs for my pads. I use usually other plugins, but this one works great too. This is all great stock stuff. So in this, I called this my pad EQ. So what I've done is I've come in around the 450 to 500-ish range hertz, and I've just pulled that mud out and then rolled off some low end. So here's the pad right now, bypassing the low end and dialing all that stuff out. Here's what happens when I disable that plug-in. Put it back on. You can really hear how it takes out those frequencies. So let's talk about that for a minute. So I'm also one of the main keyboarders at Gateway Church in Texas, and we have a broadcast space upstairs that broadcasts to the world, and then we have our front of house, obviously, in the sanctuary. And I am constantly in communication with my front of house guys and broadcast guys because I don't want to assume, first of all, that anything I make is perfect, because that's just arrogant. And I also need to be mindful of the fact they have a job to do. So if I create a pad that takes up all of the real estate, all of the frequencies, and I leave them no space, they're going to notch me out. They're going to go through and start carving me up. And in my ears, we're fortunate enough to have monitor mixes and all that stuff. So we can run stereo on stage, all the tracks or whatever we need, channels. I can sound like $1 million, but out front of house, I could sound like a Casio. So let me encourage you, build a relationship with your front of house guys, find out what they need, and let them give you feedback. I'll literally text them while we're rehearsing. I'll text them and say, hey, how's my stuff sitting? I'm using a new patch on this particular song. How's it sitting? And I'll get the feedback. It's too brittle. It's too muddy. It's too low end. It's got a lot of low end on it. We need to lighten it up a little bit. Or it's perfect. I love you. Thank you. So this is a great response. And right here, when you start doing this kind of work pre-use, you haven't used it yet and you've done all this kind of work, the best compliment you can get from your sound guy is, hey man, your channels at my board, your EQ is flat. I don't have to touch you. Thank you. That's the best compliment you can get, because you want to send your stuff already thinking of his job. So I can't stress enough, build these for all the different types of pad sounds, lead sounds, ARP sounds, bass sounds that you're going to use. Save these so that you can recall them anytime, and then it's easy to use in any given minute. Maybe that service was supposed to be sing, 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 sit down, and all of a sudden they're like, hey, no, the pastor's going to come up and speak halfway through. Hey, Keys, we need you to provide a cool pad while he talks. You can instantly pull up your stuff, put on an EQ, make it sound great, and it'll work awesome. So that's channel EQ there. That's all I've got going so far on this pad, and it's sounding great. Just Omnisphere and some EQ. And now we'll get to this plugin. Everybody, I'm sure, has heard of Valhalla Shimmer stuff, Valhalla Vintage. So again, nothing new here, just my interpretation or my use. I will plug this for Peter James at MultiTracks. He has made for Shimmer and Vintage settings, template settings that he personally has done, and guys from Young and Free have done, and those are available to purchase, and they're great. I mean, they're great stuff. But for this one, I just used the Bright Hall, and this is a great plug-in, a great setting right off the bat. What I did is pull the mix back, I pulled the feedback back a little bit, set the pitch mode to single, and I actually did a color mode to dark because having it on bright was actually too bright, and I would think in a house setting it might even be even more bright. And so I kept it dark here. And so here's what it sounds like with my EQ in process and with the reverb. Here's what it sounds like now. And you can hear the long tail there because of Valhalla Shimmer. That's a great sounding pad. And again, we're using textures and a pad. It's not just going in and finding a pad on pad on pad. We're using a meat and potatoes pad with a nice bedding. And then we're adding some guitar-ish kind of vibes. Now, I will say this. If you have a guitar player who gets swell chords and ambient chords and mood. Maybe you don't need the lap steel on your pad. You can mute that or get rid of it or not even use it because you have a guitar player who can provide that. And then with the finding piece at the end patch where I'm sprinkling particles out of the speakers to the room, to the sanctuary, that it would provide some really great ambience and mood in the room and allow people to do what they're going to do, and you would be part of the solution, not part of any problem. You wouldn't create anything that's harsh and abrasive and intrusive. And man, the sound guy's like, dude, pick another patch, please. This is killing us out here. So this is kind of my approach. So to recap, this was not how to use Omnisphere so much as my approach when I build certain types of pads. I'm going for ambience, I'm going for particles, I'm going for shimmer, I'm going for atmosphere, and this is my approach. Go in, make my multi 4 channels right away, open those all up so that way I can start just slapping in sounds. And as I'm exiting sounds and entering sounds, as I'm finding new textures, I'm leaving some things constant so that I've got something to work with, a bass pad that I really like, and can swap the textures, the playable textures around. And, in the playable textures, let's just go to that up here a minute. You've got, when you pull this stuff up and you go to playable textures, you have all of these different tags to help you. And you can easily go in, find what you're looking for, and start messing around by just making a few clicks. So I really highly encourage you, go in, find out what's in your library, find out the samples, put stuff together that you think might normally not fit, and then just have fun. Get in there, have fun, make some sounds happen, and trial and error. Use it at your church. Talk to your sound guys. Talk to your worship leader. How's this stuff sounding? How am I meshing with the team? Get the feedback on that stuff to continually hone your craft. But this tutorial right here, what I wanted to show you was how you can take your perspective, how you think, go in, find stuff or create stuff that fits that, put it together, and have your own voice. Cool? So I look forward to seeing you guys in the future. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.